On today's episode with Elisabeth, we speak about going from bookkeeping to coaching, tapping into your own personal authenticity, the beauty of meditation, trusting yourself, and asking for support in your business. We talk about personal branding and bringing mindfulness practices to your employees. This is a wonderful episode. Make sure you listen right to the end. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Constructive Conversations. The intention of this podcast is to explore the mindset and actionable strategies that empower entrepreneurs to achieve success in all areas of life while inspiring others to pursue their own ambitious dreams. The reason why I do this podcast is because 10 years ago I knew I wanted to be a business owner, but I had no idea where to start. I had no role models to follow. So the idea is to provide that inspiration for new entrepreneurs or to provide the fuel for those who are already doing it. Joining us today is Elisabeth Dirksen, an abundant mindset coach who's mastered the art of combining energetic alignment with practical financial planning. Elisabeth empowers her clients to fully embrace their visions and navigate past the mental roadblocks that often hold us back. Thanks so much for joining us today, Elisabeth.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
And you're joining from Kelowna?
Yes.
Awesome.
West
Beautiful.
Kelowna, British Columbia.
Beautiful, beautiful city. Well, tell us about a little bit about what you do now, what that looks like, and maybe we'll work backwards from there.
Yeah, so a lot of people approaching me in the sense of, Elizabeth, love your energy. How can we work with you? Which is a beautiful space to be in because not only are you creating opportunities for others, but you're also helping them along their way to step into their visions and their true purpose. It can stem from somebody that's currently going through something, maybe a relationship that they stepped out of that, had a hardship of getting away from, and how they can now turn that into something that they're passionate about from that pain and really create that into a business to continue helping others. We work on creating that vision, number one, set that as our destination. And then the support is there with a one-on-one or group coaching on how we can get there.
Okay, great. And tell us a little bit about your journey. What got you into what you're doing now? Where'd you start out as?
Yes, my path always started in the financial world, very corporate. When I ended up out of a relationship that no longer served me, I ended up with my son, and my number one thing was I did not want to end up under a bridge with him. So I had to really dig deep into what I wanted to do, what can I create so that I can sustain and support the lifestyle that we're after. And so one of my first clients approached me and they're like, we're looking for a bookkeeper. So that's essentially when I created Infinite Bookkeeping, my bookkeeping firm. And I packed up my baby myself every day for 8 hours. We ventured 20 minutes, had 2 lunches packed, put them in a playpen, and supported this client. When I got them fully caught up, I then looked back or evaluated and I said, okay, well, I'm really good at this. I may as well incorporate it. So I think it was 4 months after spending time with them, I ended up incorporating. I found clients in Alberta, Kijiji at the time, met them at coffee shops and just onboarded and helped people with their bookkeeping. It happened very quickly that these clients were not only looking for financial support or monthly bookkeeping support along the way. I found myself spending a lot of time with them, time on their visions, on their end goals, on their dreams. And there was always this aspect of, Elisabeth, I have a spring in my step after my conversations with you. And so it took me several years, but stemming from that, I asked myself, what can I create so that I can support more people in this entrepreneurial space that are always thinking about that next idea and have somebody they can go to and talk to? And it's not like, sure, sometimes we say, oh, I don't just feel like a bookkeeper, I feel like a therapist as well. There's a joke in the bookkeeping, accounting world like that. But if you really dive into this, there's actually this need of support for entrepreneurs, that can speak to somebody, not just when it comes for financials, but somebody that's going through something and understands the inner turmoil that we need to shift from that energetic standpoint in order to get to the vision that we're wanting to get to. So hence creating my one-on-one coaching and group coaching to support more people with this endeavor.
Oh, that's so interesting. So you had the bookkeeping that you were skilled at, but then you narrowed down and realized, hey, everybody's walking away from the conversations, wishing they had more, maybe like, the deeper conversations. So you're able to pivot and focus in on that. That's great. What was it? Take us back, getting started, launching a company, you have your baby with you in your playpen. What was that like for you? Like what the thoughts, what was day-to-day experience like?
Every day was faced with mother guilt. It was being in a space of I can't bring him to daycare because I wasn't financial off at that point. Yet viewing it from an abundance standpoint of like, man, I have the luxury of taking my kid with me and catching up with this one client as quick as possible. So, and that's what we do nowadays as well. As I work with a client, I always look for the opportunity in the financial, in the business aspect, not only for my growth, but for the company's growth as well. So I set a time frame very quickly of, okay, I don't love bringing my baby here. What can I do to transition? So I realized, well, I'm not seeing any clients on site. The client has rented the space specifically for administration for myself that I'm driving to, wasting my gas on. So I set myself a 3 months goal. And once I was fully caught up, I approached them and I said, hey, I want to save you $1,200 per month. And he goes, well, why? How can you do that for us? And I'm like, move me to my home office and get rid of this rental space. You don't need it. And the next day he drove out and we moved everything over into my home. So now did I not only gain the freedom of being at home with my son, but also the luxury of not having to wake up, being inside of the traffic matrix every day, and saving my clients money along the way as well.
So it was like a reframe. Yeah, it's really interesting to see the positive, and now you apply that to your clients. Yeah, I really like that. And then what does the process look like that you go through with a typical client? Like sort of where are they when they're starting off, and how do they find out about you and that you can solve their problem?
So a lot of the times clients will be in a space of, I know there's more out there for me. I just have this knowing, I have this desire. And then I will ask them, well, what does that look like? And they're like, well, I don't even know. So then we actually work on creating that vision first based on what is that turmoil that we can navigate from inside, and where do you want to be? And it can start as far as what do you want that feeling to look like? Because if we can tap into the feeling, which is the highest frequency of authenticity, if you're in that state and we can linger on that state to create the vision, you will find such a fast lane to get to there quicker. So some people, they struggle with identifying that vision, and some people have that vision. They're like, I know I want that house, I know I want that business, boom, 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 but how can I bring everything into play? So basically the hows, the in-betweens, those are easy to work and align with a coach like myself when it comes to finding support for your business or whatever it may look like, or shifting you out of that bottleneck for your company. It's just having you steadfast on that end goal vision so that we can get into that lane and like shift any distractions, any shiny objects, and really set focus on that.
So you're really beginning with the end in mind, and you get really clear on that, and then the rest becomes a lot easier when you have that focus and that vision. So from your perspective, what are the skills? So I'm picking up that obviously you need a lot of empathy and you understand what people are going through. What are the skills that you employ in what you're doing, and where did you get those skills? How did you develop them, or were you always like that and you just discovered it?
I think once you're in a darkest time in your life, all you look for is the light, and what does light feel like? It's beautiful and it feels light as well. And to always long for that is the exit to freedom, which people long for. Either it's peace or freedom are one of the biggest things that clients who work with me that they want more of. And so me having to go through that myself in my life, that was my end vision. For me, my end goal was somehow a fountain. Like through my meditations, I just saw this fountain and me laughing around it, me being happy, me being free. And that appeared to me later on in life. And so then I said, well, if I was able to shift my way out of that, I can now support others. And of course, there has been many books, many self-development courses, workshops that I participated in. I've even gone through a very intense journey with spiritual executive guides that are called the Journeyman Collective. And so it's actually where you tap into another realm of what you are here for purpose and what you are here to create. And so with that in mind, you can come back and really shift the people's perception of how they view life as hard. So many times as a single mother, I have to be in this position of actually demonstrating and introducing people to like, actually single mother is not that hard. It's just the way how you view it. It's how you get to create the lifestyle that you want. And honestly, Nick, sometimes I look at people that are still single, they don't have dependents, and I'm like, why are you not further in life? What is holding you back? You have nobody that's holding you back. So then it only comes down to like the inner belief systems that we then need to work with to like shift and be like, no, you are that person. You get to be what you truly desire. Like, is it something from the past that's holding you back or something that somebody said, right? So single mothers definitely have an advantage for them to pursue faster. And any workshop a full single mother goes to costs her more, is time consuming. She's more away from her kids and everything, but people don't realize it. But for one of us to be in that position of like, no, this is actually my luxury and I get to attain this information and then teach others the same way, it always brings me back to like, man, if the entire world that is after this self-growth, after this knowledge of that never stops, everybody would be just so further ahead. But it's tapping into the luxury of self first to get there.
So you really have the ability to see that potential in everyone. You say, hey, why don't you fix this that's holding you back? But you did that work. So you went in there and you went through, like you said, the darkness. So then you get that perspective of you can see the light and create that vision and do the work, like you said, with other teachers. What's been one of the biggest obstacles you had to overcome in just your whole journey up until now?
I think it's a continuous keep going. Basically, like there will be moments, and as you're growing more successfully, everybody's curious, everybody wants a piece of the pie, everybody is looking to support, but identifying what is support and what is something that you need to first coach, right? So that is a current view that really needs to be perceived from a distance. As for the past, I think, again, the darker time, it was when I left that home. And one last time, I was just picking things out of the cabinet, just necessities, didn't really pack, just threw things in bags. And I just collapsed. I was on the floor. And there was just this knowing inside of me of like, Elisabeth, you've made it till here, you can keep going. Like you have a son to take care of. You have this desire to create something grand in this world, and on top of that, you're going to help others to do the same. So that was something huge to overcome.
Yeah, and amazing that you overcame that, and that's what you're doing now. So the flip side to that question, what's one of the greatest successes, maybe an unexpected success, since you've been coaching and doing what you do now?
It was when I found out, a lot of the times I'm like, I was frustrated, Nick, by people calling me crazy, especially like when I shared my ideas or something. Or I too am an adrenaline junkie. So before I hit the skydiving plane or bungee jumping in Mexico, you already hear like crazy or she's crazy, right? And it was actually in November of last year. I was coaching one of the organizations here in the Okanagan area, and they had a disconnect between their offshore team and the organization that they had here. But they knew that I was heading to Bali. their offshore team was in Philippines. And my first thought was like, well, who's been to Philippines? Who has detected the cultural differences? Who has learned about these people in person and what is important for them? What are actually their passions? So this was all going through. And on the second meeting that I went to them, there's this thing that came through me and it said, okay, Elisabeth, just tell them that you need to go to Philippines on their behalf. And my answer to myself was like, you're crazy. And then I realized, like, isn't it that we are the ones that call ourselves crazy first, and hence we then attract the outsiders of like, you're crazy. But it's the subconscious that we're not always aware of that we do actually end up calling ourselves crazy first. And so it was really cool because I thought the worst I can get is a no, right? And so I approached the meeting and I said, who here has been to Philippines? And they're like, well, nobody. And I'm like, I will do that on your behalf. Me and my son are heading to Bali anyways. I'll hop on over. And the response I got was, you would do that? So not only have I handpicked talent off of there, we've shifted things, the company has grown, and it's just beautiful to see like multiple cultures come together for the purpose of either the company's vision or even, I would say the business owner's vision, because that was their initial dream, to make that company grow.
Amazing. That's a great win, and I'm sure like it was a big win for your clients to have you spearheading that. So you talked about like your meditations. Can you talk more about those practices and what you do to connect with the deeper, the inner part of yourself?
Absolutely. My favorite part. I say to everybody, like, if we can all just double down on occasion. If you're doing a 20-minute meditation, do a 40-minute and just dwell in that God is dreaming a dream inside of you and make it feel really magical. For me, it started off with attending 5 years ago, just attending meditations on Mind Valley. And I did this more in like, okay, well, people say this works. I was raised very conservative, more in prayer form versus meditation. And meditation was something more that we're like, you don't want to tap into that. It's not religious based. But my curious stroke when I just learned more and more about it. And the first few times, I really discovered in those moments of silence that I could see my past, I was able to see my future, and it brought it into the now. It was such a comfortable feeling within me that, wow, if I were to do this daily in the mornings for myself, then I have this full cup to continue to give for the clients. So I then was really appealed to the book, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, and he speaks on that 20-20 rule, which starts off with the 20 meditation. On the occasion that let's say I travel or I don't have the means to like be on my yoga mat at 5 a.m., there's one mindful practice I really love to do, and it really expands your awareness. It's when you're noticing that you are waking up. I encourage to keep your eyes closed and just be very aware of what is coming through. What is the first thought you're thinking about for your day? Because we have the choice to control the beginning of our day and the end of day. What happens in between? It's multiple gifts if we view it from that way, and challenges that we need to come through. And this is the exact practice that I do through my coaching. We can control the beginning of it, which is you saying yes to yourself, of your personal investment, and we can control the end vision that we have in mind. And then the middle part will just navigate of this with the support that you will get. So the mindful practices, it's really tapping into just creating more awareness. Aside from the morning, if you're driving in the car and you just maybe take an affirmation with you of, I am aware,
Yeah.
you will start bringing more awareness into your consciousness.
How about this? Are your customers or people you work with, is there resistance for them to, pick up these new practices? Are they open and willing to it? Like what's sort of necessary there to get people on board? with a new practice like that if they haven't been, meditating before?
It's definitely observed with a caution for a lot of them that have never been in this space before. At the same time, if I give them that this is one of my main results to my success, they're willing to give it a shot, right? And sometimes, not sometimes, after my coaching calls, we do a guided meditation, and where they feel the support and the vision that's just shared through my voice of what's being channeled through me. And it's just beautiful for them to surrender and just allow themselves to let go for a vision that's being gifted to them. For others that are still viewing this as resistance, I would just encourage, just be open to it. Just allow somebody to share light through you and see how it makes you feel. The most important thing is, if there is you're longing, a little bit of peace within you, allow somebody to share that with you, and you will feel that.
I really like that. I had the thought not long ago, if I ever had a coaching group, I would make sure everybody has to meditate at some point during the coaching. So that's super cool that you incorporate that. And then focusing back on like your business, what do you see? What do you look forward to in the future, in the next 5 to 10 years? What are your goals moving forward?
Yeah, we're definitely on an expansion, and like there's partnerships in the work, different approaches of purchases have come through. And on a personal note, I think it's more in the feeling of mother. My son is growing up, he's 9 years old now, and my company kind of got created in the same time as he was a baby. So it's almost like raising two kids at the same time. It's beautiful that you're asking this question, because just this past summer, I had a question go through me of like, we're growing immensely. What am I to do with it? And as we grow, especially as business owners, we are learning that we need to call in more support, and we need to call in more trust for ourselves. So the more we do this, the more things will feel like the support will automatically come. I remember the time we were in the switch of a CRM, and I was just calling this in, and then it just automatically showed up like the CRM that we're currently using just appeared as one of the advertisements. It's almost like your phone or whatever can hear your thoughts, like when those advertisements that you speak about appear. So that happened. And same thing when I was like thinking about a transition in the company, like inquiries just popped in through my email. So just being really in that energetic alignment. So for now, it's definitely in the growth and watching the unfolding of it, of who's all coming in to help grow this further. And most importantly, step back in the sense of watching it flourish from the hardship that it grew from, or why it came about. And most importantly, as we're growing, the business is growing, you grow as a person, it's noticing who you are becoming in the process as well, and who you get to witness growing or their journey unfolding. I know in my teams within the companies, I have each one of the teammates share their 3 and 5 year visions and even expand, like dream big is one of the titles I say, and they throw everything down. And from the time that I meet them to like now, I keep reminding them, like, you guys are different people. Like there's this belief in them of like, if you have somebody around you that also sees that vision and has that slight belief in your higher potential, there's also this buzz or hit inside of them like, oh my God, I can do this. So if we can gift that to one another, just witnessing the unfolding of that is such a beautiful reward as a coach.
Yeah, so it's almost coaching your employees, and that's one of my favorite things, is doing the 3 to 5 year plans and quarterly reviews with each employee, and see how much progress have you made, and in even 4 months. Yeah, that's amazing to see.
Do you incorporate any mindfulness for your employees?
No, we don't actually. That's a good point. No, we're just very business. So yeah. No, I think that would be a good thing to incorporate. And how would that look? So say they're consulting with a company and they say, we want to incorporate mindfulness practices. What would you recommend?
Yeah, it's definitely bringing in somebody that can lead a before meeting meditation and let it stem with gratitude. You are in the construction industry, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So I've spoken with many project managers, many site managers, and just learned about what are some of the mishaps in the organizations or what is more they want to see of. And so many times they have these site meetings and go about the day, but nobody really knows how are these people actually feeling. Yes, they're showing up for their 8 to 5 job, whatever, but you have no idea if they are taking care of a mother or somebody back home that's actually taking a toll for them internally, right? So if they can maybe gain that support through a mindful coach within the organization and have somebody speak to that and have them separate that from work, or while you are doing an activity that is strengthening you in the moment, giving you mindful practices of sharing with you who you are. Like sometimes maybe in that situation of, let's say, caring for a loved one and you needing to take on that responsibility, but you're on the job site having to lift a, let's say, heavy material or place a 2x4 in a certain position, but your mind is with your loved one, can you in that moment that you're lifting that 2x4 ask yourself, I can hold more support, not just for this but for the person that I love? And you practice those mindfulness with the action that you are incorporating in your day-to-day, because now you're mending those two and you're going back to how do you want to feel from inside. And most of the time, if we don't understand what somebody is going through, that's when mistakes happen on the job site, and people that are then confronted about the mistakes, they're not going to tell you I had a hard day. They need to gain the trust with somebody within the organization that they can go to and know that after they've spoken to that person, they can walk out feeling good, incorporating these things for them.
Amazing, yeah. I love that. The mindfulness to blend together, the work and the personal life or whatever, internal and external is going on. Yeah, that'd be a very powerful practice. What about what's the next, puzzle that you're working on, the next unlock to unlock that next step in your growth?
My vision, so I speak multiple languages, and my vision right now is to support as many people that are called to gain support from me as possible. And so my thought process is continue doing this on bigger platforms. Social media is one on Instagram right now that I've expanded on, but it's reaching out to podcasts like you, down the road having my own podcast and being in rooms where I share with people on how they can adopt these abundance mindset practices and live more in the day-to-day with those, just on a bigger levels. It will come with books, with motivational speaking gigs on stages. But with speaking multiple languages, the desire is really to also then execute in those linguals as well.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, what other languages do you speak?
Yeah, so I speak English, German, and Low German, which is very similar to Dutch, and then not so fluent, but mostly Russian.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole new audience
Yeah.
that you can reach. So you talked a little bit about social media. What are your thoughts on personal branding? Is that something you actively do, you're working on? How does that look?
Working on, and oh my God, had I known this from the get-go, I wouldn't have so much structural needs that I created in companies, holding companies, my trust and so forth. It's beautiful that how we can actually funnel everything through us, right? Any other company that will have or ever create, you want to build it with a mind of either selling or exiting it. But whatever you create, you will always sustain and always remain. So I also truly believe and to run everything through your personal brand, because that is something you can never get rid of, right? There's different ways of structuring what you are building, but continuously growing your personal brand, I think, is one of the most beautiful ways to now expand your personal awareness.
Yeah, and I like what you said. Basically, you'll always be yourself. So, you can't sell yourself. You can't exit out of being yourself. So
Yeah.
for this lifetime, you're there. And so then you want to be mindful of, how do you position yourself in front of people and audiences. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think that I agree. That's very powerful.
And it goes back to like, how much can I become more of me? Who am I willing to share me with, right? Like the people that are then to be in your audience and they're looking to step into their authenticity or looking to share on social media about what they're passionate about. And it's just so beautiful to witness how everyone's just willing to tap into that. I think when I began, I also had this need of overcoming that slight fear of like, what's someone going to think of me or so forth. But like when you go through that, it's just so freeing. It's just you. And yeah, I think there's a whole growth process within that itself.
Yeah, it's another avenue for personal expansion, like you said, and yeah, definitely great opportunity for growth. Can you give, like, if we do a specific example for somebody, maybe like they haven't done so much work on themselves, and they're trying to develop their authenticity and find out, what my passion is. What's a good place for them to start on that
I love
exploration?
that question. I love that question. I encourage you to think about your first memory where you were extremely happy. And also think about your first memory where you were extremely sad. And you want to dwell in those feelings and really see what is it that you need to overcome to tap back into these feelings. The extreme happiness would have most likely happened before you could speak. But a lot of us, we don't have quite that memory. So envision, maybe it was a first Christmas, maybe it was somebody coming home and you welcoming them, right? And why I start there is because as we grow as toddlers and we didn't speak yet, our subconscious sees images, right? Like we dream in images, we don't dream in words. So if you can tap into that vision, what it felt like, what were you doing? Were you twirling? Were you dancing? What were you doing? And you become aware of that, you now have tapped into the feeling of what it needs to feel like for you to be in that full authenticity for your end vision. So you don't necessarily want to primarily focus on what that vision looks like, but you want to tap into what did it feel like and how can you translate this feeling into there. And then with why I also encourage about tapping into like a first memory where you felt that first challenge, the first hardship. It could have been you maybe fell on a bike, or it could have been somebody. I know one of my first thing was like I wasn't accepted in the church choir at 7 years old, and that was something really almost hurtful. But to linger in that, you actually then use that as building blocks throughout your life to lay the foundation of who you are becoming. If you were able to handle that, and now as you're building, you're going to get challenges automatically. Abundance mindset is not necessarily about now you're going to have complete optimism at all times and you're like, no, it's the awareness of selecting the perception based on what you lived through in the past or what you've seen others overcome in the past. So now you're building these blocks with that, and you just see yourself rise. But you can always use that in a parallel to support you along the way.
Amazing. That's a great place to start. Yeah, I really like that. And then, so you mentioned the abundance mindset. Can you just talk about more about that mindset and, like the shifts people need to make to get in and to stay in that awareness?
I think a good example we can start off with is traffic. It's catching yourself in moments of complaint. Like Kelowna has a big thing where people like talk about the bridge. Like they're like, if I have to go over the bridge, I'm not gonna go. And to me, it's like, whoa, can we get into the space of we have a bridge? Let's tap back into, when was it, 19 earlys, when the people were envisioning the build of that bridge and they had that cool idea of connecting these two landscapes together, and that's how we get across. And to be in that space of like, oh, I don't want to do it, or in the space of complaining, that's actually telling yourself that you're not worth more because you haven't been grateful what's already been created for you, you know? And recently, using the example of the bridge, I'm going to throw an example from a sharing from one of my clients. She actually utilized that bridge as a massive welcome into her stepping into wanting to shift the perception to abundance within herself. And it's like, if I can get onto that bridge, who's going to welcome you? What does it look like? And you can create that space in such a good feel and such a grand vision that it's all for you. And then again, you use that to the parallel of where you want to be, right? So the people that are lingering in that traffic and honking or whatever, it's like, take a step back. Before you do that, what is it within you that you can allow yourself to be like, no, today I'm not going to choose it like that. I get to slow down a bit. Every day I'm in rush, but today I get to slow down. Or so many of us have transitioned into this virtual workspace. Now when we drive, personally for me, it's like, wow, I get to be in traffic, right? So seeing that shift, or being really aware of like when you're in a zone and you know, like when it's like packed, but then all of a sudden the lane that you're in, it just frees up, like cars just move out of your way. In that moment, can you just choose and be like, thank you, like this was for me? And now again, put it in a parallel to a vision of like what's before you. Is there an obstacle or something that you're going through? And just see that passing to the side for you so that you can pass through.
Amazing. I like that, of using what's in front of you as you know, an analogy to whatever else is going on in your life, and say,
Exactly.
yeah, you know, the road's opening up for me to move ahead. So that's awesome. And it also sounds kind of like you're starting with, you know, something small and easy, like traffic. Everybody deals with every day, so that's easy for someone to start with and say, okay, yeah, I can handle this. I can change my frame of reference and how I think about that. And is the idea then that they move on to sort of larger things from there? Is it like growing a muscle?
Absolutely. And you could switch the tables. It's like, okay, now you're in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat where you're allowing all of it to flow and you're in this free flow. But what is your perception next when you see somebody else going out of their way, maybe flipping somebody their finger, or like you all of a sudden see where you used to be? What is your thought process in that moment? And it's maybe the awareness of like, oh my God, that used to be me. Or you now tap into that next level. What energetic light can I send to this person right now so that they can have a better day moving forward? Can you visualize you saw their hands? Can you visualize them seeing their hands and giving gratitude that they have both of their hands? Can you then maybe next morning in that moment, take time for them to see them in their genius of maybe them stepping into their meditation for the first time, where they then lay their hands on their, like let's say the cross-leg position, they just lay their hands on their laps in receiving motion. Can we take that opportunity to just see them in their highest genius for receivership? Because now you're not just creating that energetic funnel for you to continually receive, you have amplified it and you can do that for others.
I love it. That's very powerful, like, you know, just simple way of thinking of like reprocessing your experience in a new frame, which brings me to the question, do you have mentors? Like, so you mentioned, you know, different, like a meditation group. Yeah. Who have you learned from, and who are your mentors today?
And so I have spiritual advisors. They're called the Journeyman Collective. With them, I went through an executive journey through plant medicine. And then today, my current mentor is Dan Martell, the author of Buy Back Your Time. And, you know, Dan was one person that for the first time in my life, he saw beyond the vision that I had for myself. And that was my stepping into working with him. I was in a space to constantly seek people that were beyond my success, beyond where I want to be. And for to him to have said something of like that I am capable of doing that, it's what I've been doing for my client all my life, almost in this corporate or in coaching and support world. And to finally have heard that from someone and support me with my continuous growth, it was a beautiful gift in the moment.
Amazing, yeah, and I guess that's so necessary to have somebody with that grand vision who can push us forward and say, no, there's still more. You can still expand further.
Yeah, Nick, I have this like mystical vision of like working with a coach or a mentor. And it's like whoever's seen Avatar, like those dragons, those beautiful birds, the bigger ones, they might fly higher, but they're always there for support of the littler ones, of the younger ones. They know they want to also fly high. And every once in a while, when you fall off, maybe it could be like you going to the gym or something like that. The coach mentor is there to hold you accountable. These big birds, they then just come and scoop you up. And maybe it's a little while where you spend that one-on-one time with them once per week and you get to just glide for a moment. You don't need to fly by yourself, but they got you. And then after that call, you just step forward and you have this momentum once again. So you have that consistency of in your lane, in your flow.
Amazing. I 100% agree. I love it. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. These are just short answers and we can just shoot through them.
Okay.
So if you were going to write a book, what would it be about?
Conquering single motherhood.
Amazing. I think that would be very helpful to a lot of people. What about your top book recommendation for other entrepreneurs?
The Compound Effect, Think and Grow Rich, and A Wish Fulfilled by Wayne Dyer. One last one I would recommend is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And then a visionary one that really supported me was The Alchemist.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll put those in the show notes so everybody can find a link to those. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I want more than one person, and I'm thinking about the people that have left legacies behind and are already gone. Number one, it would be my father. He was always the person in my life. I lost him, unfortunately, when I was 18 years old, but he was always the person in my life. The moment I accomplished something, he was there to hear that support, and he encouraged me to keep going. And so in my life, where he was then gone, I was always missing that. And so I would love to have dinner with him once again. Furthermore, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, they've been such spiritual angels for me in hardships. Would love for them to just, not even dinner, but just come back so I can give you a hug, And then somebody that's alive. Oh, I think I'm already having dinner with everybody that I'm wanting who's alive, and the ones that are meant to have dinner with me, they are on their way.
That's great. Then, yeah, you're having the right conversations. So
Exactly.
that's awesome. If you could wave a wand and be free of any habit, is there anything that you would change?
Ooh, I love it. What would I change? I think I would wave that wand into letting go more, letting go and trusting more, like the support that's coming in. Further trusting in like continuously asking for help, that one can assure me that I don't have to do this alone anymore.
Love it. That's great answer.
To some 741 hertz or 888 hertz frequencies on Spotify. Let that play throughout my home. I'll light candles. I'll make myself a beautiful bath with salt bombs and a book in hand. Really, fill up my mind with more of the thing that I crave to learn.
That's great. That's like a professional unwinding plan, versus other people might say, oh, watch TV, but yeah, you've got it dialed in. So amazing. Is there anything else you wanted to cover on?
I think we've touched on everything, Nick. I'd be curious to learn what is the title of your book.
Oh, well, I can show you this one here is called Optimism 2033. It came out last year. And it's embrace the light of optimism and shape a brighter future. The idea is, how can we shape the next 10 years through like our perceptions and how we show up in the world? Because Ray Dalio said, the next 10 years will bring 100 years worth of change. And I think we're we're already seeing that with AI and technology, and so I'm very optimistic about the future. So that one, the next one, I'm still not decided. Yeah, that one's still.
So you wrote this one?
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Well, it ties into kind of what we were speaking about this entire session. And how long did it take you to write that book?
I wrote this. I don't know if you can see. It's thin. I wrote it in 4 days,
Wow.
and I'll tell you the secret. I dictated it, so I walked around my office and I just spoke for 8 hours per day, and then went back afterwards and edited it. So it's just it's just me talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that got it done. That got it done pretty quickly.
Very cool. Well, that's inspiring. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. All right, and where can people find you, Elisabeth? What's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, on Instagram, Elisabeth.Dirksen, and it's Elizabeth with an S, not a Z. And my website is elisabethdirksen.com.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have that in the show notes so people can just click on there. And that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise, Nick. Thank you for having me. We'll
All right,
see you.
take care. And yeah, we'll be in touch.